My name is Harold Thompson. I'm 82 years old, a widower, and I've spent most of my life fixing engines in Detroit suburbs. My son Brandon and his wife Audrey have lived in my house for 15 years, free of charge, along with my granddaughter Savannah, who's 12 now and lives with them. At the anniversary party for their 10-year wedding celebration, right inside that house I bought decades ago, they turned my granddaughter away at the door. They told her there was no place for her inside because she brought bad luck. Savannah stood on the porch in -5-degree cold, clutching a handmade painting she'd spent days making as a gift for her dad and stepmom. She didn't cry. She just stood there, arms wrapped around the canvas wind, cutting through her coat. I wasn't there. I was in the nursing home a few miles away when my neighbor Haley called me that night. Her voice was shaking as she described what she saw from her window. I listened without interrupting. When she hung up, the room was dead quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't call anyone back right away. I just stared at the ceiling and realized some things can't be allowed to continue, not if you want a child to grow up whole. If you've ever seen a kid shut out from their own home, drop a comment below and subscribe so you can follow this story all the way through. After that call, I started thinking back on everything that had happened in that house over the past 15 years. I bought the house in the early 1980s, a solid colonial with wide porches and a big garage out back, using every dime I saved from overtime shifts. It wasn't fancy, but it was paid off early, and in 2005, I set up a revocable living trust. The document was straightforward. The house would always serve the family, all of them without exclusion. I wanted it to be a place where blood meant belonging, not bargaining. I named myself trustee, and I told Brandon at the time that the place was for everyone who needed it. Brandon is my only son. He moved in 15 years ago with Audrey, his second wife, after his first marriage ended. They took the upstairs rooms, used the kitchen, the yard, the garage, everything without paying rent. I never asked for $1. I figured that's what fathers do. I even helped them get on their feet. When Brandon needed a truck for his car sales job, I wrote the check. When Audrey wanted to open a small boutique selling candles and gifts, I covered the first few months of lease and inventory. They said thank you, and I believed them. Savannah came along later. She's Brandon's daughter from his first marriage, and after the divorce, she lived mostly with him and Audrey. The court arrangement put her in that house full-time. She was small when she arrived, quiet, watchful, always trying to fit in. But Audrey never quite let her. It started small things. Savannah would clear the table after dinner while everyone else sat talking. She'd eat whatever was left once the plates were passed. Audrey would say things like, "Careful, Savannah, don't spill things, get messy when you're around." Or, "We don't need extra bad luck tonight." She said it with a smile, like it was a joke, but Savannah stopped smiling back. Over the years, the girl grew quieter. She stopped asking for seconds at meals. She stopped bringing her drawings to show. She learned to stay out of the way. I saw it during visits before I moved to the nursing home. I'd come over for Sunday dinner, and Savannah would sit at the end of the table folding her napkin into smaller and smaller squares, while Audrey talked about her day. Brandon never corrected her. He'd change the subject or laugh it off. I told myself it was just step-family tension. I told myself it would pass. I was wrong. The anniversary party was supposed to be a celebration. 10 years since Brandon and Audrey said their vows. They invited friends, neighbors, a few cousins. The living room was decorated with balloons and string lights. A long table in the dining room held catered trays, roast beef potatoes, salad, a 3-tier cake with gold lettering. Music played low. People laughed and clinked glasses. Brandon stood at the head of the table in a button-down shirt I'd bought him years ago, raising a toast to the woman who changed everything. Audrey beamed beside him, her hand on his arm. Savannah had spent the afternoon in her room upstairs, working on something special. She came down in her best dress, a blue one Audrey had picked out last year, carrying a wrapped canvas. She waited until the toasts were done, then stepped forward during the cake cutting. She wanted to give it to them right then in front of everyone. She said it was a family portrait she'd painted herself. That's when Audrey turned. She looked at the painting, then at Savannah, and said something low. Brandon glanced over, nodded once. Audrey took Savannah by the arm, not hard, but firm, and walked her to the front door. The music kept playing. Guests kept chatting. No one stopped to ask why. I heard all this later, piece by piece. But even before the full story came out, I knew the trust I'd written 20 years earlier had been broken not by law, but by something deeper. The house was supposed to be a shelter. Instead, it had become a place where one child could be pushed outside, while everyone else stayed warm. When Haley told me more about what Savannah endured that night, I started checking everything connected to the house, from the original trust papers to the money I never knew was moving through it. The next few days, I kept my routine simple meals at the nursing home, short walks down the hall, a nap in the afternoon. But my mind was elsewhere. I started with Haley. She lives 3 houses down from mine, has for 25 years, and she's the kind of neighbor who notices when the mailbox flag is up or the porch light stays on too long. I called her mid-morning voice low so the aide wouldn't overhear. "Harold," she said right away. I've been thinking about that night. I should have gone out there myself. I told her I needed details, anything she saw or heard. She sent me 2 photos she'd taken from her window, one showing Savannah on the porch, arms wrapped around the canvas coat collar turned up against the wind. The other, a wider shot of the house lights glowing in every window while the girl stood alone. The timestamp read late evening. Haley also forwarded a screenshot of a text chain she'd seen on her daughter's phone. Someone from the party had shared it. It was from Audrey to Brandon. "Don't let her back in. She makes everything feel heavy. No emojis, no anger, just flat." Brandon replied with a thumbs up. That was it. I saved the images and the text to a folder on my tablet. No notes, no commentary, just the files. Then I moved on to the house itself. The trust papers were in a safe deposit box I hadn't opened in years. I asked the nursing home to arrange a ride to the bank. The clerk remembered me, pulled the envelope without question. Inside were the original deed, the trust document from 2005, and a few updates I'd made when Brandon first moved in. Nothing about rentals, nothing about income. I read the clause again. The property shall serve the family, all members without exclusion. I'd meant it. Apparently, someone else hadn't. Back at the nursing home, I opened my laptop, the one Brandon bought me 2 Christmases ago, and logged into the browser I rarely used. I typed the address of my house into a search bar, then added rental and guest suite. It took less than 30 seconds for a listing to appear on a short-term rental platform, not Airbnb exactly, but a similar local one popular in Michigan. The host name was A. Thompson. Photos showed the guest suite above the garage, fresh linens, a small kitchenette, a queen bed, even a basket of toiletries on the nightstand. The description read, "Cozy retreat in quiet Detroit suburb, perfect for business travelers or weekend getaways." Reviews went back 3 years. Clean and private host was responsive, great value for the area. Rates averaged $95 a night. Occupancy looked steady, maybe 60% over the years. I scrolled through every photo. The wood paneling in the suite was the same I'd installed in the 90s. The brick fireplace was the one my wife loved. The view from the window overlooked the backyard where Savannah used to play when she was little. I took screenshots of the entire listing, the calendar, the reviews, the payout summaries visible in the public profile. Then I ran a quick calculation, average nightly rate, times occupancy times 3 years. It came to around $60,000, give or take. The money had gone into Audrey's linked account, small deposits here and there, nothing flashy but consistent. I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. The suite I'd been told was too damp to use had been cleaned, furnished, and rented out, while I sat in a nursing home room with a view of a parking lot. I needed one more piece. I called Brandon. He picked up on the third-ring voice, casual, like nothing had happened. "Hey, Dad. Everything okay?" I kept it short. I heard about the anniversary party. "How's Savannah?" He paused. "She's fine. Kids get dramatic sometimes. She went outside for air, that's all." I asked if anything else happened that night. "Nothing big," he said. "Audrey just needed space. You know how she gets when things feel crowded." I thanked him and hung up. The call lasted 90 seconds. I recorded it on my tablet's voice memo app, no law against one-party consent in Michigan. His words were smooth practiced. Savannah went outside for air. No mention of the cold, the painting, the door closing behind her. Just gaslighting, quiet and clean. I saved the recording to the same folder. No anger in the file name. Just Brandon call. Date. I closed the laptop and sat back. The evidence was there. Photos, texts, listings, calculations, audio. Solid. Undeniable. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. Confrontation gives people time to rewrite the story. I needed the story to stay exactly as it was. With the evidence in hand, I contacted Victor Lang, the lawyer who helped me set up the trust years ago. He still practiced out of a small office in downtown Detroit. Same gray suit, same measured voice. I explained the situation over the phone first. The party, the porch, the rental income I'd uncovered. Victor listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said one thing. "Bring everything to my office tomorrow. We'll go through it step by step." The nursing home arranged transportation. I arrived with a folder containing printouts of the listing screenshots, the text messages Haley forwarded, the bank deposit estimates I'd calculated, and the audio file from my call with Brandon. Victor reviewed it all at his desk, flipping pages slowly, occasionally nodding. He didn't react to the numbers or the words. He just worked. First, he pulled up my original trust document on his computer. The clause was still there. The property shall serve the family, all members without exclusion. He explained that revocable living trusts in Michigan allow the settlor me to amend or revoke at any time while competent. Competence was key. He scheduled a quick visit from my primary physician the next week. The doctor came to the nursing home, ran the standard cognitive tests, and wrote a letter confirming I was alert, oriented, and capable of making financial decisions. No dementia, no confusion. Just an 82-year-old man who knew what he wanted. With the physician letter in place, Victor drafted the amendment. It was 3 pages clean and precise. Brandon Thompson and Audrey Thompson were removed as beneficiaries. Savannah Thompson was named primary beneficiary. Because she was still a minor, Victor added an independent trustee clause, a neutral third-party fiduciary. Someone from his firm would manage any assets or income for Savannah until she turned 25. No family member could touch it without court approval. I kept a life interest, the right to live in or use the house if my health improved enough to leave the nursing home. The amendment didn't change the trust's core purpose. It enforced it. Victor prepared 2 documents to send. The first was a 30-day notice to vacate, addressed to Brandon and Audrey as permissive occupants. Michigan law is clear. No lease, no rent, no ownership interest means they stay at the owner's pleasure. Pleasure revoked. The notice cited the statute, gave the exact 30-day timeline, and required certified mail with return receipt. The second was a demand letter for conversion of trust, property income $60,000. Victor attached the rental platform screenshots, the estimated earnings calculation, and a summary of how the funds had been used for personal expenses, new furniture, boutique inventory. He cited Michigan law on fiduciary duty and unjust enrichment. No threats, no emotion, just facts and numbers. I added one personal touch. On a plain sheet of lined paper, I wrote a short note by hand. I set up the trust. so the house would always be a place for the family. All of it not to shut out a child in the cold. This ends now. Harold. Victor folded it into the envelope with the notice. Certified mail return receipt requested. Everything went out the following morning. The waiting began. 30 days is a long time when you know what's coming. I spent the hours reading, walking the halls, thinking about how a house can hold memories and mistakes at the same time. Victor kept me updated. Tracking showed delivery 4 days later. Brandon signed for it. No phone call from him. No text. Just silence at first. They received the certified letter a few days later, and the reaction exploded. The first sign came through social media. Audrey posted a public status on her profile, long emotional, with a photo of the house from better days. After 15 years of caring for my father-in-law's home, maintaining it, paying utilities, making improvements, we're being forced out. Someone manipulated an elderly man in a nursing home to take everything away. We're heartbroken. Please keep us in your prayers. She tagged several church friends and cousins. Likes and hearts poured in quickly. Comments followed. That's terrible. Family should stick together. Praying for you. One distant relative wrote, "Elder manipulation is a serious issue. Hope justice prevails." Audrey replied to each one with a crying emoji and a thank you. Brandon commented underneath, pinned to the top. "My sister-in-law's family has turned against us. This isn't right. We've poured our lives into that house. He didn't mention Savannah or the party. He didn't need to." The implication was clear. Harold was being used, and they were the victims. Within hours, the post reached family group chats. Relatives started calling me at the nursing home. An aunt I hadn't spoken to in years left a voicemail. "Harold, what's going on? Audrey says you're being taken advantage of. We need to talk." A cousin texted, "This is breaking the family apart. Think about your age." I didn't respond. I saved the messages. Brandon and Audrey didn't stop at posts. They drove to the nursing home 3 days after the letter arrived. I had already updated the visitor list with the front desk. No Brandon, no Audrey. No exceptions without my approval. The receptionist told me later what happened. They walked in, Audrey in her usual neat coat, Brandon behind her looking tense. They asked for me. The staff checked the list and politely said, "No." Audrey's voice rose. "He's my father-in-law. This is ridiculous." The receptionist repeated the rule. Brandon tried to push. "Just let us see him for 5 minutes." Security was mentioned. They left without another word. That same afternoon, the internal arguments began to leak out. Weston, my neighbor across the street, called me that evening. He'd seen Brandon and Audrey's car pull into the driveway after the nursing home visit. They didn't go inside right away. They sat in the car for almost 20 minutes, windows up, voices loud enough that Weston heard fragments from his porch. Brandon accused Audrey of spending the rental money on things they didn't need: new couches, a bigger TV, the boutique inventory. "That was Dad's house," he said. "You used it like your personal bank," Audrey shot back. "You never watched the accounts. You let me handle everything. If you'd controlled your daughter better, none of this would have happened." The argument ended with doors slamming. Weston said they slept in separate rooms that night. The next few weeks, the house lights stayed on, late voices carried across the yard, and the tension was visible even from the street. Weston offered to help. "If you need a statement about what I saw or heard, I'll write it," he told me. I thanked him and said I'd let Victor know. He didn't push. He just kept an eye on the property, noting when cars came and went. The family calls kept coming. A second cousin left a message. Audrey says, "You're not yourself. Maybe the nursing home is influencing you." Another relative texted, "Don't let them take your home. We're worried about you." I saved them all. No replies. The silence on my end seemed to fuel their story more. Audrey posted again a week later, shorter this time, still praying for resolution. "The house we loved is being taken. Heartbroken, but trusting God. More prayers, more hearts. Brandon shared it with his own caption. This is what happens when people twist an old man's mind. No one mentioned the trust document or the rental income. The narrative stayed simple. Elderly father, manipulated loyal children betrayed. Through it all, I stayed quiet. Victor checked in weekly. They're building a public story, he said. Let them. The court doesn't decide on likes and comments. The 30 days passed slowly. The posts tapered off. The arguments inside the house grew louder. Weston told me the couple barely spoke in the driveway anymore. Separate cars left at different times. The lights in the upstairs bedroom stayed off some nights. When the 30 days were up, Victor filed in General District Court. The hearing was scheduled quickly. Michigan courts move fast on unlawful detainer cases. Victor prepared a thick binder, the original trust deed, the recent amendment, the certified mail receipt for the notice with Brandon's signature, the physician's letter confirming my competence, and the rental platform evidence listing screenshots, public payout summaries, and my income estimate of $60,000. No theatrics, just documents. I didn't attend. Victor represented me. He told me later how it went. The courtroom was small, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. A judge in a black robe who looked like she'd seen every variation of family dispute. Brandon and Audrey sat on the other side, no lawyer this time. Their first attorney had dropped them after reviewing the rental records. They came alone, Brandon in a wrinkled shirt, Audrey with her arms crossed. Victor spoke first. He outlined the trust revocable established 2005 Herald as sole trustee. Brandon and Audrey were permissive occupants, no lease, no rent, paid no ownership. The 30-day notice was properly served. The amendment revoked their beneficiary status. Then he presented the conversion claim, unauthorized rental income from the guest suite and garage, $60,000 deposited into Audrey's account over 3 years used for personal expenses. He passed the binder to the judge. Brandon tried to speak. We've lived there 15 years. We maintained the property. This is our home. The judge asked for evidence of a lease or rent payments. He had none. Audrey added, "We thought it was family. He's our father-in-law." Victor pointed to the trust language. Permissive occupancy can be revoked with notice. No written agreement existed. The judge reviewed the file for a few minutes. She looked up. "The trust speaks for itself," she said. No lease, no ownership interest. The notice was valid. Possession is granted to the trustee. Vacate within 10 days. On the conversion claim, she noted standing for a separate civil suit if needed, but recommended mediation or payment. The gavel fell. No drama. Just an order. 10 days later, they moved out. Weston watched from his porch and called me with updates. A rental truck pulled into the driveway early Saturday morning. Brandon carried boxes, lamps, kitchen items, clothes. Audrey directed from the steps, pointing at what to load. They took the furniture they'd bought with rental money, the new couch, the flat-screen TV, the dining set. They took clothes dishes, even the string lights from the anniversary party. They left the old family photo on the living room wall, the one of me and my wife in front of the house the day we closed in 1983. It stayed there slightly crooked when they locked the door for the last time. The consequences hit fast. The eviction judgment went on public record. Tenant screening services picked it up immediately. When they applied for apartments, landlords ran background checks and saw the unlawful detainer. Most refused outright eviction records signal risk. They ended up in a motel for weeks, then a cramped one-bedroom in a less desirable area, rent higher than they expected because of the judgment. Credit scores took a hit indirectly. Any unpaid portion of the $60,000 could lead to a civil judgment lowering scores further and making loans or utilities harder. Brandon's car sales job suffered. Customers who knew the family drama through social media or word of mouth started avoiding him. Sales dropped. His manager noticed. Reputation in a small industry matters. Audrey's boutique felt the pinch, too. Online chatter linked the story to her name. Foot traffic slowed. At home, the strain broke them. Arguments escalated from money to blame. Brandon accused Audrey of reckless spending. Audrey said he never stepped up. Separate rooms turned into separate lives. Within months, they separated. Divorce papers followed. No dramatic court battle, just quiet, exhausted paperwork. The house sat empty for a short time. I paid a service to check on it weekly. The porch light stayed on a timer. The old photo remained on the wall. The house is quiet now. I began arranging for Savannah to have a safe place. Victor handled the details. After the eviction order, Brandon and Audrey had little leverage left. They knew a prolonged fight would cost more than they could afford. Victor drafted a simple settlement agreement. Brandon signed consent for Savannah to remain in the house, temporarily, under the revised trust terms. No custody battle, no additional hearings, just a notarized document acknowledging the trust's authority. Savannah stayed put. The independent trustee, Victor, appointed a neutral professional from his firm, took over day-to-day management of any assets or income tied to the property until Savannah turns 25. I retained my life interest. If my health improves enough to leave the nursing home, I can return and live there part-time. Until then, I supervise from here, with regular reports from the trustee. I have no direct contact with Brandon or Audrey anymore. Everything goes through Victor. No calls, no texts, no visits. The boundary is firm, and it works. Savannah adjusted slowly. She still has her room upstairs, the one with the window overlooking the backyard. She keeps the old family photo on the wall, the one they left behind. She started drawing again small sketches of the porch, the garage, the street. She talks more, now asks questions about the house's history. I answer what I can over video calls. The trustee makes sure her needs are met. School supplies, clothes, counseling if she wants it. She's safe. That's what matters. Looking back, the lesson is clear and sharp. Family isn't defined by blood alone. True family is where children are protected, where every member is treated fairly, where past mistakes don't become excuses to exclude someone. Favoritism and greed erode everything. They cost Brandon and Audrey their home, their reputation in the community, their relationship with each other. The eviction record follows. Them landlords see it on background checks and pass. Credit takes hits if debts linger. Jobs suffer when word spreads. They lost more than a house. They lost stability they took for granted. Boundaries matter. Legal documentation matters. A trust isn't just paper. It's a promise enforced by law. When someone breaks that promise, consequences follow slow but certain. Blood ties don't erase wrongdoing. They don't shield theft or exclusion. They don't justify shutting a child out in the cold. If you see a child being pushed aside in their own home, don't wait for someone else to act. Move quietly but firmly. Gather facts. Seek advice. Protect the vulnerable. The next generation depends on it. Consequences always arrive even if they take time. Greed and favoritism leave ruins. Fairness and protection build futures. I have no regrets. Savannah smiles more now, and the house finally belongs to those who deserve it.